It was just another morning, grey skies, wet roads, and the quiet buzz of Birmingham streets. But for Minister Entrance, or Big Zay as he was known out there, November 5th, 2023 was his last sunrise. By midday, the 21-year-old father lay bleeding out on a residential road, not killed by rivals, not by strangers, but by two siblings he once called acquaintances. Maya and Isaiah Marsh didn't carry reputations, they weren't big names, but that day they grabbed weapons, hunted Big Zay down, and carried out a cold-blooded execution all over a £200 cannabis debt. Big Zay was trying to leave that life behind. He had his driving theory test booked, a job interview lined up. He was making moves, but when trouble came knocking, none of that mattered. Quick one though, this ain't about glorifying no violence. We're here to lay out the facts, tell the real story, and show how pride, pain, and broken choices turn lives upside down on Birmingham streets. This is Ends Unshanked, raw truths from the ends, no filters, no hype. Hit that like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. Let's get into it. What went down on Medway Grove wasn't some deal gone sideways. It was planned, fueled by anger, past trauma, and the twisted idea of payback. When police checked the CCTV and pulled in the knives, the headlines told only part of it. Behind the story sat one of Birmingham's saddest reminders of how quick life can spin out. Some knew him as Big Zay, moving cannabis round Kings Norton estate. But to the ones who really knew him, he was Minister Entrance, a young dad, a son, a brother, fighting to break free from the trap that grabbed him as a teen. His path into street life wasn't rare where he came from. Quick cash pulled him in. Cannabis became survival. He moved from block to block, often strapped not to hurt, but to stay alive. Out there, being unarmed could cost you your life. Still, behind all that street stuff was a man worn out by the madness. His people say he was serious now about switching lanes. That morning, November 5th, he had real plans. That driving test was a step toward legit life. The job interview could have been a new start. Finally, things were moving in the right direction. Minister wasn't deluded. He knew turning his life around wouldn't be simple. He wasn't blind to his mistakes. He didn't claim to be perfect, but he was making the effort, and the people closest to him believed in that change. When he left his house that day, he wasn't looking for drama. He was chasing progress. A quick drop off to a regular, then off to his test. Just another move in a better direction. But no matter how far he tried to get, the streets kept pulling him back. The life he was escaping came for him, this time as rage over money, delivered by two people who had no business holding that kind of power. Minister didn't die in a trap house, not in some gang war. He died at the edge of change, trying to step forward, but getting dragged back into the madness. Maya and Isaiah Marsh weren't raised to be killers, but life never handed them better tools. Their childhood was chaos. Growing up in Birmingham, under a violent father's hand, abuse was their normal. Social services stepped in, but bouncing through foster care didn't fix the wounds. It only stacked trauma on trauma. By 2023, Maya was 23, working at Lloyd's Bank. On paper, life looked steady, but underneath, it was a whole different fight. She struggled with mental health and leaned heavy on cannabis, buying often from Minister. On the day it all went wrong, she was signed off work for her mental state. Instead of resting, she picked up a knife and rang her brother. Isaiah, just 20, kept to himself, quiet, reserved, no criminal ties, no violence in his history. But inside, Isaiah carried scars, deep ones. Doctors would later say he had complex PTSD, built from years of pain and fear. He wasn't some street soldier. He was a broken young man, dragged into something he couldn't handle. Despite everything they went through, neither Maya nor Isaiah had ever crossed the criminal line before. That morning, when they woke up, they didn't plan to kill. When Maya called for more weed, Minister didn't answer. He wasn't giving her any more credit. That no sparked something dark inside her. Rage mixed with shame, and the situation turned deadly. You could call them monsters, but the truth ran deeper. They were broken people, scarred from years of chaos, trying and failing to handle a world they weren't built for. For Maya, the £200 wasn't just about cash, it was pride, it was frustration, it was that twisted mix of feeling owed, masked as desperation. Isaiah showing up on his bike just before the stabbing wasn't pure loyalty, it was him folding under pressure, unable to think straight. This wasn't some cold-blooded hit, it was an emotional breakdown that spiraled, but in the end, the result didn't change. One man dead, 2 more lives ruined, and it all kicked off over just £20 bust worth of cannabis. Maya was already deep in debt, owing £200, and had a habit of paying late. Still, she thought Minister would front her more like before, but not this time. Minister was moving different now. He had his test, he had his interview. He wasn't about to play drug dealer to someone who couldn't pay. Maybe he was drawing his line. Maybe for once he stood firm, and maybe that refusal was the spark that set everything off. Maya didn't take it well. She waited outside his Kings Norton flat, pacing up and down, fuming. She rang his phone over and over. No response. To her, it felt like disrespect, like he was mocking her. That bruised ego pushed her over the edge. At some point, she grabbed a kitchen knife. Then she called her brother. Isaiah had nothing to do with the debt. No reason to get involved, but when Maya asked him to pull up, he did. That decision changed everything. Isaiah jumped on his bike and headed for Medway Grove. As he rode, he stayed on the phone with Maya. CCTV caught Maya pacing the road, voice raised, eyes full of fire. By the time Minister arrived on his bike, the stage was set for violence. She blocked his path, demanded more weed. When he tried to ride off, she grabbed his handlebars, spitting venom. "You're not going nowhere, you prick," she screamed. Right there, it could have ended. Minister kept calm. He didn't pull his knife. He tried to de-escalate, but then Isaiah showed up. He approached like he was cool, arms going around Minister's shoulders like it was a friendly hug, but it wasn't. The energy shifted. It got physical fast. They wrestled. They hit the ground. A knife hit the pavement. Minister's own blade. The CCTV lost them behind the substation, but everyone knew what happened next. The witnesses, the forensics, the footage, it was all clear. That call Maya made wasn't for backup. It was the spark that set this tragedy off. What followed wasn't just violent, it was wild. CCTV caught Maya already pacing, heated. As Minister rode up, she stopped him. She grabbed his bike and unleashed abuse. He stayed calm, didn't threaten her, tried to pull away. Seconds later, Isaiah arrived, still on the call with Maya while pedaling over. He saw what was going down, and instead of calming it, he threw fuel on the fire. Isaiah got off his bike, walked up behind Minister, and locked his arms around him, pretended to be friendly, but underneath it was aggression. Minister, alert, fought back and threw Isaiah off. They both hit the ground behind the power box, just out of CCTV range. In the struggle, Minister's knife landed on the ground. Maya spotted it. She snatched it up. What came next was brutal. The men rode back into view, still locked in the fight. Minister was trying to break free. Maya picked up the knife that had dropped. She handed it straight to Isaiah. He froze for a second, then he drove it into Minister's body. Over and over. The stabbing was wild, furious, out of control. Minister fought back. He twisted, he struggled. But Maya didn't just stand there. She grabbed his arms, held him down while Isaiah kept stabbing. Blood poured onto the road. The violence was close, raw and savage. In the middle of all that madness, Maya turned her head for a moment. Maybe blood got in her eyes. Maybe the horror started sinking in, but she didn't stop. Somehow, Minister broke free. Hurt and barely standing, he ran down the street, leaving a thick trail of blood behind him. He made it to a house nearby, rang the bell. The doorbell camera caught his final moments. Drenched in blood, barely able to speak, he collapsed right there. 2 women came running to help. Paramedics got called, but it was already too late. Minister Enference died on that doorstep, in the street, in broad daylight, killed in the middle of a Birmingham estate, all over £20 worth of weed. Another young man gone, and 3 families destroyed. After the stabbing, Panic quickly flipped into cold moves. Maya and Isaiah didn't call 999. They didn't wait for anyone. They ran. Back at home, panic mixed with planning. Maya wrapped Isaiah's bleeding hand, cleaned up the blood, the knife, along with another from the kitchen, plus their bloody clothes. All of it got dumped in a bin outside. Then they both disappeared. Isaiah went to his dad's place. Later, he showed up at Heartland's hospital, saying he'd hurt himself falling off a bike. Maya, calm like nothing happened, clocked in for work at Lloyd's Bank. Hours after the killing, she was behind the counter serving customers. That night, she didn't go home, stayed at a friend's house instead, probably knowing what was coming. But by the next day, they couldn't hold it in. The weight was too heavy. Both siblings handed themselves in. At first, they lied, said it was self-defense, claimed Minister attacked them, claimed they never planned to stab him, but the lies didn't hold. CCTV, phone calls, forensics, witnesses, all of it exposed the truth. There was no ambush from Minister, no threat from him. Their ambush came from them. 2 knives, 1 plan, and a level of violence no excuse could cover up. The Marsh siblings weren't known criminals, but in those few minutes on Medway Grove, they became something else, and now the justice system was ready to deal with them. In Birmingham Crown Court, the trial of Maya and Isaiah Marsh played out over several tense days. Their evidence was heavy: CCTV clips, phone data, witnesses, forensics. Their defense stayed simple. They claimed it was self-defense, said Minister threatened them, said they were scared, said the stabbing was never part of the plan. But the jury didn't buy their story. After just under 4 hours, they came back with the verdict: guilty of murder for both. The courtroom stayed dead silent. Maya didn't move. Isaiah kept his eyes on the floor. No shouting, no tears, just silence. A cold contrast to the wild violence that took Minister's life only weeks before. Then Judge Simon Drew Casey spoke. He faced the court and broke it down clear. Yes, Minister Enthrone's Big Zay was a drug dealer. Yes, he carried a knife. But the judge said none of that justified what was done to him. He didn't die straight away. He tried to run. He was in pain, struggling, begging for help. His last moments were caught on a doorbell camera, and those weren't the actions of someone posing a threat. They were the final moments of a young man just trying to survive. The judge also spoke on a knife situation. It wasn't fully clear if the fatal stab wounds came from Minister's own blade or the one Maya brought from home. That small doubt didn't clear them, but it did change the sentence. If they had proven a knife was carried with full intent, both would have faced 25 years minimum. Instead, Judge Drew handed each of them a minimum term of 20 years. Maya and Isaiah Marsh got life. They will be eligible for parole in their 40s, but only if the parole board approves. For Minister's family, the sentence brought a bit of legal closure, but no real peace. His mother, who sat in court the whole time, spoke her pain out loud. My son wasn't perfect, she said, but he was trying. He had a driving test that day, a job interview. He was finally taking steps to turn his life around, and now he's gone. Living with that is unbearable, she continued. This was a senseless act of violence. It beggars belief. He was trying to be better, but 2 people decided he didn't deserve that chance. Minister Enthrone's life wasn't about perfection. It was about the fight to do better, a fight that got cut short. His murder, carried out by 2 people broken in their own ways, stands as another harsh reminder of what happens when trauma, violence and pride collide at the wrong time. The justice system has made its decision, but for the 3 families involved and for a grieving city, the pain still lives on.